Why is South Africa so affected by what happens in emerging economies like Turkey? Why does it have such an impact on us?
Well, it's something we can't escape, Viveka, and South Africa didn't escape the consequences of volatile markets in Turkey. In fact, our rand was hit pretty hard when the Turkish Lira reached record lows. I'm in Istanbul to find out what's going on here and what's being done to get things back in order. Around 82 million people call Turkey home. About 14.9 million people live right here in Istanbul, making it one of the most populated areas in the world. But beneath the top layers of its beauty lies a troubled economy. 82 million people affected by a crashing currency. US-Turkey trade wars are having a major impact. Two fierce and very powerful presidents are butting heads. Inflation is skyrocketing. Interest rates are dramatically increased. Presidential egos and funny cartoon graphics aside, emerging markets suffer all alike. South Africa does not escape what happened here. So, how did things get this bad, and what's been done to get out of this financial fiasco? Let's find out. It all started with an announcement on Twitter, believe it or not. US President Donald Trump tweeted he was doubling steel and aluminium prices on Turkey as the world power pushed Ankara to release an American pastor who's being held on terrorism charges here. The Turkish currency took a beating, crashing 40% against the dollar. Emerging markets, including South Africa, felt the ripple effects, with the rand weakening more than 10%.
We have seen basically the rand weakening and just following through all the emerging markets as a sell-off continued. And this was made worse also by the trade war between the two biggest economies in the world, which is China and the United States of America.
The impact on South Africa is evident, but it's being felt here even more. Inflation is up 18%. That's a 15-year high. And people are paying more for their loans since interest rates increased by 24%. Turkey's governing party reckons it's making the right moves.
We are somehow sacrificing our high growth rate with a low growth rate in order to have a more balanced financial system. And then, of course, gradually the economy will increase its growth rate.
The government has made adjustments to deal with the turmoil. Economic growth has been revised down from 5.5% to 3.8%. A former central bank governor here and member of an opposition party believes smarter moves should be made.
I think the most important things that is lacking in the medium-term program is this debt, how they are going to deal with this debt burden and debt service situation.
But one local economist says Turkey is doing pretty well, despite the current circumstances.
Turkey is in the perfect storm, and despite those issues, despite those problems, it's doing much better than many people would have thought.
Despite oceans separating us, their waves are felt across the globe. It's a connection we can't escape in emerging economies. But how each country deals with the turbulence is key. All, of course, with unique circumstances. Shahan Ramkissoon, Istanbul, Turkey. Well, as part of our special focus on emerging economies, our reporter Michael Appel is in Brazil and recently traveled to Venezuela, where the economic collapse has caused a mass exodus from that country. Michael, you've traveled up north to the Venezuelan border. What's the situation like, and how are the Brazilian authorities responding?
A few days ago, we traveled to the state of Roraima, which is right up in the north near the Venezuelan border. The city of Boa Vista has turned into a bit of a transit camp, with Venezuelan migrants fleeing the social and economic collapse in their country. I traveled to one of the United Nations emergency shelters. This is one of 11 emergency shelters set up by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. There are 394 Venezuelans that are staying here at the moment. They're getting shelter, they're getting safety and security, and they're getting food and water and medical care, something they haven't had for years in their own country. For many, before they come here, they're living on the streets.
Me considero con demasiada suerte por haber salido vivo de Venezuela. Estoy agradecido con Brasil y con la ONU por esto. Esto va a ser histórico. ¿Cuál es tu nombre? What's your name?
Michael.
Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ivanovic, his wife Michelle, and 8-year-old daughter walked out of Venezuela, crossing the Brazilian border on 28 August. Expected to live on the equivalent of less than 20 rand a month, he knew getting out of Venezuela was his only option.
Narcocomunista de Nicolás Maduro no permite las circunstancias para que las familias, el pueblo humilde, porque no hay medicamento, no hay alimento, no hay trabajo. Ellos dicen que el petróleo venezolano es para los venezolanos, pero no es así, es solo para un grupo, un sector político económico que ellos ejercen.
If you're not part of the connected few, you can end up working 2 jobs and your weekends and still struggle to buy the basics. The United Nations has been interviewing migrants on conditions in Venezuela.
They explain that there is an economic crisis and they simply cannot meet their basic needs. Doesn't matter if you have a job or not, you are going to work for a month and be able to buy 2 chickens, is the statement that most people make.
Ivanovic says the minimum wage can't even buy him a kilogram of rice. No one can live on what they're expected to, he says.
$1 mensual, $1 al mes. No puedo ganarme $1 al mes. No está bien, algo está mal.
Ivanovic and his family went quite literally from left to right, saying that in the end it was the only option left to them. And I think it's a fate that is shared by an estimated 2 million Venezuelans who have left that country over the last few years. Michael Apple at the Venezuelan border in northern Brazil.
Well, many Venezuelans have also fled to Argentina, which is facing problems of its own. The currency has tanked, unemployment is rising, and inflation is soaring. Aldrin Sampier is in Buenos Aires with more on an economy on the skids.
This time last year, the Argentino peso was trading just above 17 to the dollar, and now it's hovering around 37 pesos to the US dollar. Government predicts the currency will average out at 40 to the dollar next year. While this should be good news for exporting firms like Turks, it's to the contrary.
El gobierno tiene que actuar con políticas públicas, con tasas adecuadas, que los aumentos salariales estén acorde al aumento del costo de vida y entonces vamos a poder volver a los niveles de producción que tuvimos la década pasada.
The firm's production costs are set to increase, with government expecting inflation to reach 40%. As it stands, Turks' electricity cost increased by 1,300% since 2015. Production per month fell from 600 tons to 400, while price to clients increased 230%, and they are running off. Instead of laying off workers, the company has cut working hours.
Probably these political decisions could help to avoid getting to the point where you need to let go of people.
Argentina's unemployment increased last week to 9.6%, nearly double since 2015. The economic crisis in this country is quite dire. Take, for instance, this shirt. If I were to buy this shirt about 3 years ago, it would have cost me 500 pesos. But right now, on the shelves, it would cost 3,500 pesos, which is an increase of over 7 times. But here's the thing, if people do not buy the clothes, then it means that firms like these are out of business. And it will have an impact on the guys on the top, who may just lose their jobs. While some hope the 50 billion rand IMF loan could be the silver bullet, unions are crying foul and will take to the streets on Monday.
El problema con el FMI es que hoy están imponiendo un plan de ajuste que básicamente consiste en bajar los salarios, en reducir el presupuesto de educación de manera drástica, lo mismo recortan el presupuesto de salud, restringen los fondos que la nación recauda y que antes iban a las provincias del país y promueven una baja de la jubilación.
As many as 200,000 people are expected to protest the massive downturn in the economy. President Macri, however, will watch the unhappiness from afar. He'll be meeting world leaders at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Aldrin Sampier, Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Well, ENCA anchors and reporters will cover every angle of this economic turmoil from emerging countries. We're based in South Africa, Turkey, Brazil and Argentina to tell you how collapsing economies impact each other. Stay with us for the rest of this week to find out how it all affects you. I'm Shahan Ramkissoon in Istanbul.